morning students, welcome to our class Biological Science. Dear students, in the previous class we have discussed about the plasma membrane. Now we are going to enter into another new lesson. Before going into the lesson, I will explain a few things about the nature that present around us. There are different types of birds and animals and different types of plants, microbes, hundreds of millions of organisms are present that around us. Most of these organisms are invisible to our eyes. They belong to the non-living thing. They belong to the unseen world, that is microbial world. We have already studied about this in the previous class, microorganisms. Yes or no? Different types of organisms are there. If you want to know about these organisms, we have to study different types of ecosystems. These organisms extends from the mountain peaks to the deserts, are very cold regions to the hot regions. Yes or no? From salt water to fresh water, different types of ecosystems, and it contains the variety of life in them. So far we have studied about we knew about the lakhs of organisms, but still there are hundred millions of organisms are there which are unknown to us. Yes or no? So here we are going to discuss a lesson, diversity in living organisms. Diversity means difference. This lesson may help us to know different types of organisms that belongs to the different groups. If you want to know the different groups of organisms, we have to study the classifications done by the different types of scientists in the previous days. Even studying about different types of organisms without knowing their characters is also very difficult to us. Naming and describing the particular animal without knowing its character is difficult to us. Yes or no? There are different types of organisms. For example, animals, birds, fishes. Yes or no? In the animals also types is there. Tigers, lions, deers, elephants, camels. Yes or no? Different types of organisms. Okay, now birds. Birds also different types of birds is there. Crows, pigeons, sparrows, mynas, cranes. Different types of birds. So, even though they all belong to the one species, birds. They all belong to one species, birds. These all belong to one species. Animals, ఒక జాతికి సంబంధించినవి, but they are classified or categorized into different groups. Those people who try to divide these organisms into the groups, they noticed or they have taken some of the differences and similarities that present around them in that organisms and classified these organisms into the certain groups. Do you understand the point? The scientists who have grouped these animals, they identify the similarities at the same time the differences that present in that. For example, pigeons, pawral. So all different types of pigeons are there. They all come to in that group. Sparrows, pigeon. They all come to one group. Even though they are same species bird, but they are sub groups, different groups. Okay, the classification will help to us know the different types of organisms. Okay, so first of all, we will see the diversity in the plants. Diversity in plants. Take different types of plants and measure their length of leaf length, leaf broad, type of veins, roots, type of root system. Length of stem, length of stem. We will take different types of plants. Whatever you want, you can take. For example, here I am taking neem plant. Okay, na? Neem plant, neem leaf. It will be like this. The broad enta untadi. Type of vein. Veins. Venation, this means reticulate venation. This is fibrous root, tap root. Okay, na? Root system is tap. Length of the stem. So different. And another one is, here we will take banana. Venation is parallel venation. System is fibrous root system. Monocot. So dear students, now just I have taken this one, red gram, green gram, whatever it is you want to take, groundnut. Different types of seeds you can take and observe the different types of differences that present around it. I will explain in a better way. Take the plants like maize, rice, groundnut, bean. Okay, these we have taken. Okay, now in the seeds, observe the seeds. Soak these seeds. Soak the seeds one night, and in the next morning, take the seeds and observe it. Take the maize, mokozana, and scratch the portion between your fingers. A whitish portion will come outside. The seed won't divide into the two halves. And take this bean and press it. The seed will divide into two equal halves. So it has the single seed leaf, monocot. It has dicot. Do you understand this? The seed portion, the seed will divide into two equal halves here. The seed will not divide into two equal halves there. So that is monocot, this is dicot. And observe the leaves of these leaves. The leaf will appear to us in this way. So this is parallel venation. In this group, you may see that leaf will be like this. This is parallel venation. This is reticulate venation. Okay, if you observe the roots of the tree, plant, roots will be like this. This is fibrous root. If you observe the roots of these plants, one law. This is tap root. Okay, so tap root. This one is fibrous root. So by observing the differences between the seeds and the plants and root system and the leaves, we may notice that one, the monocots and the dicots are two types. That means the plants are two types. Flowering plants and non-flowering plants like that. Here also on the basis of the seed leaves present on it. These are seed leaves, seed coats. In that one seed coat, if you crush the seed coat, seed leaves come out. Okay, now the covering area is seed coat. So, if the two cotyledons are present, that is dicotyledon. Two seed leaves are present, two cotyledons. This is reticulate venation. This is parallel venation. That is fibrous root system. This one is taproot system. Even if you take the examples of human beings, take your classmates, okay now, measure their heights and length of the hands, okay now, length of the fingers, broadness of length of the palm, and measure all these things. No one have the similar type of measurements. Even the fingerprints that present in us also varies from one finger to another finger. If you take the people of Australians or Americans or Indians, they are entirely different. They all are humans. But they have at the same time they have the similarities, at the same time they have the differences. We understand that they have the variations. That means I will write on the board. The differences that present in the organisms belongs to the same species is called variations. The differences present in the organisms belong to same species is called variations. Okay, the differences present in the organisms within the same group belongs to the same species. Within the same group is called variations. The variations between the same species is always, listen carefully, the variations between the different species is always greater than the variations in the same species. Do you understand that? If you take the example of humans and pigs, there is a lot of variation among it. If you take or if you observe the differences in the human beings, less characters will be appears to us. Okay, the differences that present in the organisms of the same species is called variation. The variations that present between the different species is always greater than the variations present in the same species. Okay, so in this way we can say that the different types of variations or the differences are present in the organisms among the species. Okay, so because of that, the scientists have given to us the classification. Okay, what is the classification? What is classification? Class. For example, you all are 9th class. Why you all are classified into that particular class? Why you are separated in the particular class according to your study or according to your age? You all are in the 9th class. Like that, depending on the characters, depending on the similarities that present in that organisms, the scientists who studied about the organisms in the nature, they grouped these animals on the basis of their similarities at the same type of their differences. That is classification. Like, what is the importance of learning this classification? Classification gives the better knowledge and better understanding of organisms in this world. The first point. So, importance of classroom, better knowledge. Better knowledge and understanding. So the classification gives the better knowledge and better understanding of organisms that are present in this nature. So the classification also helps us to study the organisms in a systematic manner. The classification also helps us to study the organisms in a systematic manner. Classification also helps us to make the comparison among the organisms that are present in the nature. It also helps us to make the comparison. Classification helps us to observe the relations relation and interdependence. Interdependence of organisms that present in the nature. So relation and interdependence of organisms in the nature. It helps us to study our studies more focused way. It helps us to study more focused way. It gives an idea about the evolution. Okay, so these are the 6 points which help us to about the classification. Better knowledge and better understanding. It helps to study the organisms in a systematic manner and make the comparisons among the organisms and relation and interdependence between the organisms. It helps us our study in a more focused way and helps to evolution. What is evolution? The acquiring the changes is known as evolution. Acquiring the small changes. Acquiring the small changes is called evolution. So the different types of scientists are involved in the classification of these organisms. Whittaker, Linnaeus, different types of organisms, scientists are there. So this classification of the organisms was done by the one famous scientist or one famous scientist who is Charles Darwin. Who is he? Charles Darwin. So Charles Darwin was written a book, Origin of Species. Origin of Species. So in the book of Origin of Species, Charles Darwin explained about how the evolution takes place. Okay na? And he explained the classification evolution of organism takes place. Evolution means acquiring the changes. For example, some group of organisms may not have any body changes in their lifetime. There is no evolution takes place here. In some of the groups of organisms, they have their body designs are changed. Their body designs are changed. They acquired the changes. They have acquired the design changes. Okay, so that is the variations. That means that is the evolution. Some of the body parts of the organisms are changed according to are adapted according to the situations that present around them. That is the evolution. So Charles Darwin also explained that human came from the monkeys. Okay na? What is the reason? The evolution acquiring small changes. Some of the organisms may not have any type of changes in their lifetime, but some of the organisms adapt the changes and adapt the conditions by having the changes in their body. So that is the evolution. So the complexity of the body design is more complex in the modern man than compared to the primitive man. Okay, so dear students, up to now we discussed more things about this diversity in living organisms. Okay, once you recall everything, okay, in the next section we will discuss more about this classification.